panel of the council members to arrive, but I've gotten a few phone calls, so they should be here shortly. With that said, I'd like to welcome everybody to our City of North Miami Community Council Forum. This council was started, as many of you know, after we had the police-involved shooting back last summer as a means to have some different organizations on the ground give the city a lot of feedback, and particularly the administration. So before I get into the rules of engagement, I'd like to have Assistant Chief Juriga lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Everybody please stand, please flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With that, I'd like to very quickly go around the table and have each of the panel members introduce themselves. Start with Mr. Johnson.
Good evening, Stephen Hunter Johnson, President of the 100 Black Men of South Florida, as well as the Chair of the Miami-Dade Black
I can't hear you. Speak up.
Good evening, Stephen Hunter Johnson, President of the 100 Black Men of South Florida.
No, can I hear you?
No.
We're going to try this again. Good evening, Stephen Hunter Johnson, President of the 100 Black Men of South Florida, as well as Chair of the Black Affairs Advisory Board of Miami-Dade County.
Hi. Hello. My name is Craig. Hello. My name is Craig Green. I'm the City Attorney for the City of Coral Gables. I'm on this community council principally though because of my work with children with autism. I'm on the Center for Autism and Related Disability Constituent Board, and I have two children who have been diagnosed with autism. One who is on the severe end of the spectrum.
Assistant Chief Neil Cuevas, Oakland Police Department.
Major Tim Belton, North Miami Police Department, Motor Control Division.
Assistant Chief Larry Juriga, North Miami Police Department.
Jeff Gazzo, City Attorney.
Arthur Story, Deputy City Manager.
Nathaniel Wilcox, Executive Director of Pulse, People United to Lead the Struggle for Equality.
Retha Boone 5, Black Affairs Advisory Board, Miami-Dade County.
And again, Larry Spring, City Manager, City of North Miami. With that, I'm going to open up the agenda. We're going to start out with a few of our police updates, and I'm going to hand the agenda over to Assistant Chief Juriga and his staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spring. Good evening. If you look at the agenda, we're going to go through police training updates. Major Tim Belcher will handle that. And then we'll discuss the Police Executive Research Forum and followed thereafter by the body cameras. Belcher.
Good evening. Just to start with the trainings that we had in place, one dealing with autism, the other dealing with crisis intervention team, less lethal shotguns, and the training simulator. So going back to autism, we are fully operable as far as all the officers being trained in the autism spectrum. We also sent two of our officers to instructor school to come back to be able to update the officers, the personnel, of any information, the information that comes out for the autism spectrum. So that was the end of that training, but it will be continuous as we go along throughout the years. We also get annual training on it just to make sure that we get anything new, they'll be updated. The next training was the crisis intervention team. So far right now we have 35 law enforcement personnel who have been trained for the CIT, which is crisis intervention, and then we have 7 of our dispatchers, community dispatchers, communication dispatchers. We're still continuously sending officers to the courses. These courses are usually they usually have more than just North Miami Police Department. So they have officers from other agencies. So they only take like 2 or 3 of our officers at a time. So we're moving along with the training, getting the officers trained in the CIT training, which is very important to make sure our first responders who respond to those scenes are able to recognize and deal with any mental illnesses of any individuals that's out there. Next on the list was the less lethal shotgun. The less lethal shotgun is for the purpose of utilizing a weapon instead of using deadly force. That'd be a choice that's made out there on the scene. Usually, right now, we have all of our sergeants, our supervisors who are on the road, equipped with those shotguns that disperse beanbag rounds. And they're known to use for, if we have those of illnesses or those individuals who become a threat to themselves or a threat to others, those guns will be used on those individuals. The training simulator. The training simulator, we're still looking at purchasing the training simulator. Will give the officer the opportunity to train in-house safely, be able to give dialogue towards the individuals or subjects that's in the scenarios. Also give them the opportunity to practice on drawing their weapons and don't shoot scenarios. So they get the opportunity to train all that stuff in-house at a safe location just in case we can't go out and do it. But we are continuing our training, whether it's scenario-based training. We use real-life situations that take place on a daily basis, not only in North Miami, but around the nation. As we know, a lot of different scenarios have taken place. So we also train our officers to be able to deal with certain people, to be able to calm situations, de-escalate situations without anyone getting hurt or injured, and especially the officers making sure that they're not hurt either at the same time. And that concludes all the training issues.
The next topic on the agenda is PERF, which is the Police Executive Research Forum. And PERF is an independent research organization that focuses on critical issues in policing. PERF identifies best practices on fundamental issues such as reducing police use of force, developing community policing, and problem-oriented policing. The City of North Miami Police Department hired PERF to come in and do an evaluation and an assessment of our use of force guidelines. They came in on 2 separate occasions to meet with our command staff as well as our officers. They rode with our personnel to get a first-hand look at what the officers deal with on a day-to-day basis. And they also, as I mentioned, went through our policies, specifically our use of force policy. PERF has 30 guiding principles which are critical to law enforcement. Many of them have been implemented around the country, and we're looking to implement many of them here at the North Miami Police Department. The number one and one of the key components, the number one component that we focus on is the sanctity of life, sanctity of all human life. Additionally, we've been looking at different approaches such as de-escalation, which is critical not only in day-to-day activities, but in critical incidents similar to what we dealt with last year. I'll pass it over now to, actually one additional thing is we're continuing the education process with PERF. We're sending staff members to PERF training so that they can be educated, but more importantly, the education they receive, they're able to return to our police department and teach the other staff members and teach the other officers so they can share what they learn. I'll now turn it back over to Major Belcher. Yes, sir.
In our last session that we had here,
On our last session that we had, I remember coming to, I think the city of North Miami scored very low, was very low on a totem pole in terms of PERF or another group that's supposed to be training and things of this nature. Was PERF that group or is it another group?
That was
and where are you now?
That was our accreditation.
Accreditation.
And our accreditation process started over in October of 2016. And you have to go 3 years in order to be recertified. We're in the process now and in full compliance since October of last year.
Since October, okay.
Just moving forward with the body-worn camera initiative, we're currently fully operational with body-worn cameras. We have 103 cameras out to the personnel, whether it's sergeants, commanders, and officers, detectives, all those individuals with the body-worn cameras. They're fully operational. We did go with the company called Point Blank. And we also implemented an administrator for the body-worn cameras who oversees the body-worn cameras program. And he's a civilian individual who works in the police department who oversees the body-worn cameras. And that concludes all the items that we have on the agenda.
Thank you, guys. At this point, I'd like to, I'm sorry.
Good evening, Griffing Boulevard from the Black Bears Advisory Board. I know that you're looking at the cameras, the body-worn cameras. How will the film and the video be stored? Is that going to be, and for how long?
We'll meet all public records request guidelines as far as the film. We do have it set up as far as depending on what the situation is and what the call is, that determines how long the film is being filmed. I can give you a copy of our listing after this if you'd like to show you the exact number of days and even months on some of them.
Thank you. So with that, I'd like to get into I guess the latter part of the agenda, the update that we have since the shooting. First and foremost, let me acknowledge members, two of our members of our city council, Councilwoman Carol Keys here, and Councilman Scott Galvin here. Appreciate your attendance. Also, not only the members present of the community council, but those who are not. I appreciate your continued commitment to coming to these meetings. I know it takes away from your businesses and your families, and I appreciate this opportunity to work with each of you. I really wanted to take today's council meeting, the forum, to set straight a lot of information that's been out in the public. You know, about where we are, our process, how things are going, how things are moving forward, and keeping with a lot of the things that our council people held me to from day one of this incident. Like our mayor, we were going to go where the truth took us and make all the necessary decisions that we need to make. Scott Galvin, now vice mayor, we're going to investigate. This investigation is going to be thorough, done right, and done with transparency. Councilman Bieneman, the city was not going to tolerate any bad behavior from any police officers and hope that justice would be served. So in my effort and our administration's effort to continue that commitment to transparency and accountability, we wanted to give this update. Each of the council people has a detailed report in their packages, and I'll not briefly, but go through that packet. As you already know, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement completed its fact-finding and in-depth investigation into the North Miami police-involved shooting on December 16, 2016. The FDLE report was hand-delivered to both the City of North Miami and the Miami-Dade State Attorney's Office. From there, the State Attorney's Office responsibilities concerning the shooting incident was to determine if there were any criminal violations and to prosecute them accordingly. The city's responsibilities were to identify violations of administrative regulations, policies, and procedures, and to take the appropriate disciplinary actions. These two processes have completed, with the exception of the pending internal affairs investigation of Officer Jonathan Aleda, which will be addressed later in the summer. With regards to Officer Aleda, it has been widely reported and previously noticed to the members of this council that the State Attorney's Office completed its criminal investigation and filed criminal charges against Officer Aleda after receiving and reviewing the full FDLE report and conducting its own investigation. On April 12, 2017, Officer Aleda was arrested and charged with attempted manslaughter and culpable negligence for his alleged role in the shooting incident. Currently, Officer Aleda remains on paid administrative leave The North Miami Police Department will initiate its internal affairs investigation into the actions once a verdict is reached in the criminal proceedings. In regards to Commander Emil Holland, the State Attorney's Office opened a preliminary inquiry into the actions of Commander Holland after it was reported in the news that the city had suspended him for giving conflicting statements regarding circumstances surrounding the shooting incident, more specifically, his participation as a witness. In a closeout memo dated August 2nd, 2016, the State Attorney's Office determined there was insufficient evidence in this matter to generate a formal criminal investigation on charges of the commander committing obstruction of law enforcement, committing obstruction of law enforcement officer engaged in lawful investigation. It is noteworthy that the State Attorney's Office interviewed only Commander Holland and Chief Gary Eugene in making their final determination, and that the State Attorney's Office also noted that Chief Gary Eugene's account of the facts of the incident changed between the time the decision was made to suspend Commander Holland and the date of his interview with the FDLE. In accordance with the North Miami Police Department policy, the Office of Professional Compliance launched an obstruction of law enforcement investigation probe into Commander Holland's actions, again to determine if there were any violations of administrative regulations, policies, and procedures. Based on the findings of the OPC investigation, it was determined that Commander Holland committed administrative obstruction of law enforcement investigation by way of false statement. The findings cited violations of the following standard operating procedures and general rules and regulations. General Rules and Regulations, Section 7. Members withholding information or furnishing unauthorized and or confidential information with a view to personal gain or for any other reason shall be subject to disciplinary action. General Rule and Regulations, Section 22. Members are required to speak the truth at all times and under all circumstances, whether under oath or otherwise, except in cases where they are not allowed by rules of service to divulge facts within their knowledge, in which cases they remain silent. General Rules and Regulations, Section 44. Members of the police department shall not make false official reports or knowingly enter or cause to be entered in any police department books or records and inaccurate or false information. SOP 300.19, subsection BE, identify and locate all witnesses and police officers at the scene, keep all witnesses, including involved officers and officers separated, prevent any officers or others from intervening with the involved officers prior to the arrival of the shooting team. Additional violations were also noted as other findings. General Rules, Regulations, Section 6, members of the police department shall be held responsible for proper performance of their assigned duties. General Rules and Regulations, Section 9, any members who display reluctance to properly perform their assigned task or acts in a manner tending to bring discredit upon themselves or the department, or fails to assume responsibility to exercise diligence, intelligence, and interest in their duties, or whose performance is below acceptable department standard, shall be deemed incompetent and or inefficient and subject to disciplinary action. SOP 300.19, provisions VK, ensure that offense report is completed by an officer who is not directly involved in the shooting incident. The officer should not have taken any actions toward the subject or one that is considered a witness to the shooting. The report shall detail the known facts that initiated the incident. All other officers on scene but not involved in the shooting will complete a supplemental report with the same case number. Any discrepancies should be discussed with the shooting team supervisor, who will make final determinations based on known facts. The OPC investigation concluded. Ma'am, would you please respect the forum? Thank you. The OPC investigation concluded that Commander, in quote, Commander Holland was the highest ranking officer and scene supervisor and was negligent in performing his duties and tasks at the scene of the shooting. The North Miami Police Department OPC completed its investigation on Wednesday, June 13, 2017. North Miami Police Department provided Commander Holland with a termination of employment notice. The recommendation for termination was advised, and a predetermination hearing will be arranged in the next, within the next 2 weeks. Commander Holland also will remain on paid administrative leave until further notice. Noteworthy in this investigation is the fact that sworn statements given by Chief Gary Eugene directly contradicted the sworn statement given to the FDLE earlier in the criminal investigation. Specifically, Chief Eugene stated, Commander Holland lied to me, referring to Commander Holland's account that he was not a witness to the shooting. With regards to Chief Gary Eugene, as it has been reported, Chief Gary Eugene has been placed on administrative leave with pay. Additionally, I have asked him for his resignation. Several factors have led me to this conclusion. Most prominently, the chief has made conflicting statements in his sworn testimonies throughout this investigation. Second, the chief has now revealed a complete loss of management control over the police department, has become evident by communications that I've received from staff of all ranks within the department. Evidence also suggests the chief may have colluded with one of the officers in question to circumvent the internal affairs investigation. And finally, the chief's own admission to me of making hiring decisions based on outside influences. With that, I would like to point the council members to the rest of the report. As you will find, there is a timeline of significant events that are included that go from the date of shooting till June 15, 2017, which is the date I placed Chief Eugene on administrative leave. And beyond that are some frequently asked questions in the final section, which goes through questions, well, several questions that may be pertinent on your mind right now. This situation obviously is something that is critical to the advancement of the department. I will publicly say I'm personally disappointed with some of the circumstances that have come out, and the facts that have come out of this process. But as city manager, we have to make the decisions that we need to make and move this process forward for the betterment of the department and for the betterment of the community. So with that, I will pass over the mic to any of the council members for 3 or 4 minutes of comment or question.
I'm a resident of Miami and I don't feel safe here because of you guys. And that's why I'm here right now.
Mr. Williams?
Somebody can get shot and the city's going to cover it up and fire whoever's up the top. They're going to put a Band-Aid on it and act like that was the solution. Firing the wrong people. From the beginning, Commander Holland was suspended without pay. But Aleda was suspended with pay from the beginning. That should already show you these people were against the commander from the beginning. They're just trying to cover this up and cover their butts.
Ma'am, I'm going to ask that you respect the forum. Mr. Lean.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I'm not going to comment on the investigation, obviously, or what's happened in the past. That's obviously something that's still coming to light. There's obviously a criminal matter now. Then there will be an IA investigation. Obviously, you have 3 people under administrative leave, and you're still proceeding with those matters. So I don't think that should be the focus of at least our comments. I think the focus of our comments should be on what's going forward, how the city of North Miami is addressing what happened in terms of what occurs in the future, and how the community that it serves will be served by those actions. So in particular, I would just like to raise that the most important paragraph to me in this whole thing going forward is where you say what improvements the NMPD implemented since the police-involved shooting. And what I will mention a few things that I think are of note. It says in here that every police officer now has received autism training. I think that's very important to note, because a lot of these issues can be addressed through training. What happens with, my daughter has very severe autism, but you wouldn't know it when you saw her. It's not something it's not a physical disability, obviously, and she may just be standing there playing with something and you wouldn't know. However, if you tried to talk to her, or if you interacted with her, she wouldn't do what you told her to do, even if you're a police officer. And she might take action that you might perceive as being aggressive or non-responsive, or she may even run away if she's scared. But she's an innocent, she's a very good person, and she has no ability to form criminal intent. So it's important to be able to recognize individuals with autism. And every child with autism and every adult are different. There are some things that are similar, but they're all different. So I think it's wonderful, frankly, that you have had every police officer have autism training. And I wanted to note that first. In addition, I see that you're doing crisis intervention training. And then you list a number of other things that you're doing. I will also tell you, I think it's notable that you're having these meetings. I've never really seen anyone do this before. You know, I'm honored to be on this community council. Whatever you feel about your city government, I do think that this is quite transparent, to have these recurring meetings and to address this issue this way. That being said, I would also mention that one thing I've been working on, which I'm going to share with your city attorney, is a new standard operating procedure for interacting with individuals with autism that I think is quite comprehensive. I spoke about it recently at the Miami-Dade County Chiefs of Police, and so I'll discuss it with your city attorney, and maybe we can collaborate, because honestly now you've had done a lot of research on this issue too, to address what happened. So you know, there may be contributions you can make to that, and we can have a collaborative discussion, because I know that we want to come up with the best procedure for addressing individuals with disabilities and making sure that they are included in government, and that there's never police action taken against them that's not justified. Finally, I would just note, as a city attorney, I do think it's important to note that police officers, I'm not saying this to be controversial or cause a dispute or anything like that, but police officers have a difficult job, you know, and sometimes they'll come into situations where they won't have all the information. And so, you know, that's why the training is so important. And so now when you interact with an individual with autism, you will have the information, and you'll know exactly what to do in these situations. So I'm a big proponent of training. I think that's the best thing a city can do. So the more you can put resources into that, I think it will serve the community well. And to continue having these discussions, even after this matter is resolved, I think would be very important. So I commend you for that.
And I'm going to echo what Mr. Lean said and add a couple of things. You know, it's amazing that a city that has gone through what was, at least for me and many in the black community, a jarring and scary shooting. It's amazing what steps were taken almost immediately afterwards. And you know, there was an openness about the process. This community council was convened, I'd like to say, within a week of the incident, if not a little bit later. And now we are now here less than a year later, and every step along the way, not only have we gotten updates, but the one point that I raise is this. When we came into this, we asked for some changes in the training, particularly as it amounts to use of force and adoption of some guidelines, and that would have been way back in July of last year when we first sat down. And to get an update and see where we are yet a year later, is commendable. Now, with that said, we understand that we still have a lot of roads to travel, but the state attorney is going to travel some of those roads, and city administration is going to travel some of those other roads. I'm more concerned with how it is that our streets are being policed, and from the amount of changes, dramatic changes and updates that bring this police force up into the 21st century. And we didn't get a full update on where we were on that accreditation, but the fact that we're taking steps along that path to get that thing knocked out, I think that's what the community needs to see and understand. And I think this forum and other forums like it are important, because we need to know where we are along the process. Telling me you're going to do something and then later on never telling me where we are, how, you know, what's going to happen, that's, I think, one of the things that tends to drive a wedge between the police and the city and the community. And so the openness and the willing to talk, the willingness to be on camera and in front of the people, whether for us or against us, that's how we further and advance the agenda in the fall. So for that, I'm going to commend you and say there's still more work to do. So we got to keep working.
Good evening, Pastor Mike Davis for the record, Vice President of the Circle of Brotherhood. As you know, Charles McKenzie is also a member of the Circle of Brotherhood. And we would like to commend you as well on the steps that you have taken. We also would like to be able to come into the City of North Miami Police Department, since we are a group that look to solve problems and to be that buffer between the community and the police department. There are things that would be said to us that would not normally be said to you all, because just like the young lady stated, is they don't trust the police department. And this is why we took it upon our shoulders, a group of men, to be that buffer zone between the police department and the community. And we would like to take that opportunity to come in and sit down with, I know we've done a lot of work with Commander here, to come in and talk with you guys. You can relate to us and we relate to you. And we build a relationship between us and the community. We've done it with the City of Miami as well as Metro Dade, and they've been very receptive to what we have going on, and we would like to do that.
Hello? Okay. I'd just like to say that we'd all agree that being a police officer in this day and time is not an easy job. It's a very difficult job, but all these jobs are voluntary. Nobody recruits anybody or makes someone become a police officer. When they hit the street, they hit the road, they know ahead of time it's a very difficult job. So to say it's a difficult job, we all agree to that. But there are also things that it's in growing up and being a part of this community, being an African American male, it's a difficult job. Very innocently, just driving down the street or walking down the street, we can become the targets, unwitting target of bad police work. And I'm just blessed to be 63 years old and not having to be shot by an officer, etc., or whatever. But it's important that the work that you're doing, that the community council is doing here now, to open things up even more, because there's some things that are not completely have been brought out in these meetings that need to be brought out. And we do give accolades to the Larry and the mayor for allowing other community organizations to come in and be a part of this process. And the process is so very important, so that we can come in, we can ask the crucial and the very important questions. So we give, the accolades to North Miami for the work they've done so far, and we're also encouraging you to do a complete investigation. As you listen to some of the people back in the crowd there, they have concerns, and they're not a part of this process in terms of asking questions. But I think in some part, they need to be brought in also so that their questions can be answered. So just like to congratulate you for starting right off the bat, calling people in from the community, trying to be transparent, working to be transparent, so that this thing will happen again. Because when you see a person laying on the ground with his hands up in the air, it's nothing else he could do. It's absolutely nothing else he could do besides get shot, and that's what happened. So we're just hoping that this type of situation won't happen again, especially here. We were shocked when it happened here. We're very, very shocked. So we're willing to work, the Pulse organization is willing to work in whatever way and capacity we can to continue the transparency process.
Can I quickly just acknowledge the arrival of Robert Lafortune and Gypsy Metellus to members of the council?
There are two things I'd like to say. For one, I'm happy to say that we're here and we're not facing another fatality. I think that for us to convene and for you to pull this group together, again, I commend you as well, because very rarely will law enforcement departments go into the community willingly to say we're going to share what we're doing outside of what's being protected by legal means, law enforcement. The second thing is each law enforcement officer will be given the opportunity to have their day in court. So we are glad that you're keeping the public updated on training, encouraging dialogue between police and the community. And again, I commend you for that. And thank you for the opportunity to serve. I'm really pleased, again, that we're not facing another fatality, and that in the community, at least you're trying to stay ahead of that curve, as opposed to reacting to something that might have happened that would have had a fatal ending.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Spring and members of the board and also the community. We have missed a couple of meetings, and in the past I have gone to the wrong place, to the west side. So it is today that I went again, then I noticed that we are here the east side, so I'm very pleased that you are close to my home. So therefore I really avoided to miss those meetings that I missed there. Oh, you cannot hear me? Oh, okay. Okay, so I'm very pleased to be here, and from reading the notes, I've seen some progress. If I have a question later, I will ask the board so I can be updated. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I first and foremost want to apologize for my late arrival. So I toured the city of North Miami this evening. I first went to the Joe Celestine Center, then went up to the City Hall. Then, because of my commitment, I said yes, that I would participate here. So I said, well, let me come, even if the meeting is over, I'll show up anyway. So I'm glad I did. Want to take this opportunity to thank the residents for coming out, all of the folks who are interested and want to be heard, want to have their feelings heard, and want to be part of this process. I also want to again commend your leadership for taking this bull by the horn and making sure that we could sit together, have difficult conversations, but conversations that need to be had nonetheless. Do all that we can to ensure that the city remains a city of transparency, a city of opportunity, a city of inclusiveness, and a city that absolutely responds to its citizens. And so I am, delighted to be a part of this process. As I indicated from the very first time I spoke at this table, I would say what I needed to say regardless. I would tell you the truth as I understood it, and I would express the feelings that I either am having or feelings that I'm hearing from the folks with whom I tend to interact who live in the city. And so again, thank you, and glad to see that we're making progress.
As part of this, need to acknowledge just wanted to acknowledge the presence of Leroy Jones, also with the Circle of Brotherhood. Thank you for coming. Before I open it up to the public, I wanted to make sure we kind of quickly go through the frequently asked questions that were in the packet, so everyone has a sense of kind of the big topics, so maybe they'll be addressed. First, and this is feedback we've gotten over the last few days. What is the employment status of Officer Jonathan Aleda, Commander Emil Holland, and Police Chief Gary Eugene? All three of them are currently on paid administrative leave, so they are still employees of the city. For the time being. Aleda included. What events led to the recommendation of the termination of Commander Emil Holland? The OPC investigation included determination of the violation of General Rules and Regulations Section 6, 7, 9, 22, 44, and Standard Operating Procedures 300.19, provisions VKE, and they are specifically identified in the detailed report. What steps have been taken in regards to the employment of Commander Holland? What are the remaining steps in the procedural process? Following sustained allegations in Internal Affairs Investigation 16-06, Commander Holland has been notified by the North Miami Police Department of its intent to terminate his employment. Currently, however, he is entitled to a predetermination hearing, which is being scheduled, typically referred to as a name-clearing hearing, to provide evidence in support of keeping his job. If terminated, he will be entitled to an appeal hearing before the Personnel Board to appeal his employment termination. Why was Police Chief Gary Eugene placed on administrative leave? Again, I went through those specifically in the report update. Why did the acting police chief sign off on the notice of intent to terminate Commander Holland and not Chief Gary Eugene? Chief Gary Eugene was on a pre-approved medical leave commencing on May 8, 2017. Prior to his leave, Chief Eugene designated Assistant Chief Larry Jariga as the acting chief during his absence, giving him the full power and authority to act on his behalf. After medical clearance, Chief Gary Eugene reported back to work on Friday, June 16. What were the responsibilities of the FDLE, State Attorney's Office, and the city with regards to the investigation of the North Miami police-involved shooting? The FDLE conducted a comprehensive investigation into the shooting incident and carefully reviewed the testimony of officers, civilian witnesses, surveillance videos, and physical evidence to present to both the State Attorney's Office and the city. The State Attorney's Office responsibilities concerning the shooting incident were to determine if any criminal violations occurred and bring forth criminal charges and prosecute them. And the city's responsibilities, again, were to determine if there were any administrative, again I emphasize administrative, regulations, policies, and procedures that were violated and to take the appropriate disciplinary action. And something that Mr. Lean already pointed out, what improvement has the North Miami Police Department implemented since the police-involved shooting? The City of North Miami and the North Miami Police have used this opportunity for improvement and to demonstrate our commitment. Less than 1 year later, all patrol officers, sergeants, and commanders now wear body-worn cameras to show our commitment to professional integrity. All North Miami police officers have undergone autism training. Officers are currently receiving crisis intervention training to promote increased awareness and sensitivity when engaging with individuals facing mental health crises. In the last 12 months, North Miami Police also introduced community-oriented policing activities such as cops and kids school lunches, weekly community bike rides, coffee with a cop, and a community cleanup. The city is also implementing a new organizational chart which will increase the amount of officers patrolling the street, hopefully by double. With that, I would like to open up a small session to the public. Yes, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. I have to leave now to teach a state and local government law course, but I just wanted to say one thing to the public in particular, because I'm gonna miss the benefit of your comments. And I think the public comment parts of this are always the most important, and it's important for the public to hold the government to account. I think that that's very important, and ask critical questions. But one point I would like to mention is, and I'm a state and local government law teacher, and I know a lot about local government in different cities, and I would like to say again, I have never actually seen a process like this. I think that's very important to remember. This really is unprecedented, this sort of process, and so I think it's very important to keep it constructive. Any criticism to give constructively. Look, ultimately you have First Amendment rights, but that's just an idea. And I just wanted to mention it because I won't be able to be here to respond either.
With that, I'm going to open up to public comment. I'm going to ask that everyone keep their comments to... Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Ms. Lund.
Yes, Mr. Spring, in reading the reports regarding Chief Eugene, you mentioned on number 4, according to the chief, one admission to me of making hiring decision based on outside influencers. Can we get some more clarification? Who are those influencers?
Okay, before the manager speaks, I'm the city attorney. So, as Mr. Lean mentioned, this is a very unusual thing that we're doing. When this all started, Larry and I spoke about this, and we said we both strongly felt that the shooting taking place in North Miami gave us an opportunity. It gave us an opportunity to show the world how to handle one of these shooting incidents. And so one of the things that we did right from the beginning was we said we would have a community forum, which never happens. Usually governments try to hide behind it and they don't tell you everything. The other thing we did was we put a lot of the documents, pretty much documents that everyone's saying they haven't seen. You can go on the website, they're all up there. As documents became public, we posted them on the website. If they're not on the website, it's because they're not public and there's a exemption. So the documents that we talked about tonight, everyone can go home tonight and look at them. The other thing I have to mention, and the reason you don't normally see these kind of type of things, is there is ongoing litigation. So there are going to be times when you ask a question, I'm going to tell the manager not to answer because there's ongoing litigation. So we have that issue. There's also some of these issues. The process is still ongoing. We've been having these community council meetings. I know for a lot of you, this is the very first meeting you've been here. But we've been having these, and all of these folks have been coming and spending their time coming up here. So this isn't the first time. I know this is the first time for a lot of folks coming here. I'll reserve my opinion of that. But we are going to try to be as transparent as possible. I hope when we say we can't respond to something, you all understand why we're saying that. Okay? And so at that, I'll let the manager go ahead and speak.
And this will come, I guess, come to bear later, but without getting into any names, the chief came to me and specifically told me he made some promotions, not based on the merit of the individual being promoted, but because he was told to do so by outside individuals outside of the city.
Where's that evidence? Where is that on record?
Name and address for the public, please.
Name Tyrone C. Hill, address 847 Northeast 145 Street. I'd like to commend this assemblage here this evening. I came here with questions, but you've tampered me down. I was able to enlighten myself just by information that you provided. Anytime you provide information in written form, that means you mean business. I don't sense that you're hiding anything. This is my first meeting. And again, I know you have been having these meetings, like the incident when it happened, but I certainly appreciate the effort each and every one of you all have been taking to make sure this is transparent. And I'd like to say to those persons that are throwing darts at you, give the dais an opportunity to do what it's assembled for. You all are in the vanguard of this issue, and as a 21-year resident, I'm going to rest and assure myself that you know what you're doing. As a city manager, Mr. Spring, you didn't just pop up yesterday. You came with some experience, and I have to rely on your guidance. And I have, with all certitude, all confidence in what you're doing and how you're leading this investigation. I thank you very much. And my final comment is, in light of what's happening in the big house in Washington, D.C., and the Senate, et cetera, the so-called big boys, this local government is operating a lot better than this. Yes, I don't even know what's going to happen with my health care, but I know what's happening with this investigation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tyrone.
My name is Raymond Emmanuel. I live at 12360 Northwest 2nd Avenue. The gentleman said he's been in the city for 21 years. I've been in the city for 28 years. Assistant Chief Jerry, father was my mentor. But to tell you, Mr. Manager, we're very disappointed in you. You have been misleading the council, and you have taken control of the city and administration, and trying to misleading and undermine most of the employees within in the city. For the past year, we have 3 different lawsuits in their administration. As a taxpayer, do you think we can afford to spend all this $1 million in our tax dollars going toward lawsuit? I believe you have been mismanaged the city, and you deserve to be fired by the council. Period. We need you to resign the city. Leave the city. I'm sorry I have to say that, but you have misleading the council and you're misleading the community. You forgot there's 2 reports coming from the State Attorney's Office saying that Commander Olin was not lying. 2 entities separate from, which is independent from the city of North Miami, saying that the man wasn't lying. Soon the chief got sick, went for surgery. You create your small clique and change the investigation all over again.
Conflict of interest.
Why? I want you to be true to yourself, my friend. And as a resident of North Miami, I don't trust you anymore. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Clint Bauer. I live at 1464 Northeast 133rd Road, North Miami. I'm also the president and CEO of MACTA, where Mr. Kinsey worked, and sorry, I'm the president and CEO of MACTA, where Mr. Kinsey worked, and where Mr. Soto lived. I appreciate everything you guys have done, but now once I hear you update anybody on how Mr. Kinsey is doing or how Mr. Soto is doing, that should have been a part of this. Those people were the victims of this. I reached out to, the assistant chief doesn't recall, the very first meeting, he said he wasn't here, but I also met with Mr. Belcher, and I gave them my business card, and I said, I invite you to come to our facility to see those people. 11 months later, no one's called me, no one visited. I mean, that's community outreach. And I'm very troubled and disappointed that that hasn't happened. I mean, thankfully, I've actually had 3 police calls to my facility in the last year, and it was handled professionally wonderfully. So, but it would be nice to hear you say how Mr. Kinsey is doing. And it would have been nice, I echo what the gentleman said. You didn't mention the fact that I'm a resident of the city, and we've got how many lawsuits against us because of this incident that we're going to end up paying for. I'm going to end up paying for as a taxpayer in the city of North Miami. And I was told by Mr. Dietz, who's representing Mr. Rios, that the question was why aren't you suing McTown? Well, it turns out Officer Alita's suing me now. So it was McTown's fault that Mr. Kinsey got shot. To me, that's real trouble.
Mr. Bauer.
Yes.
I know you indicated that you had made the request previously. Tonight you met with me. First time you and I spoke, as I indicated, I was not here for the first meeting. However, we exchanged cards tonight, and I will be in touch with you this week.
I welcome the visit. I think it would be very helpful.
We appreciate the offer. Thank you.
Oh, and we did get a law passed this year, HB 39, which now requires all police departments in the state of Florida to get training. The governor signed it 2 weeks ago. We sponsored it, Evan Jennings.
Good evening. My name is Rashid Anderson. I conduct the business connect inside.
I don't understand what you're saying.
My name is Rashid Anderson. I conduct a radio show inside the Haitian community, 1320 a.m. Monday to Friday every day. My job is here to find the truth and the whole truth to relate to the Haitian community. One thing that concerned me, and I hope you guys are aware that, I don't know if I should say chief, as far as I'm concerned, when he was on the radio. You guys realize Chief Gary Eugene spoke in the Haitian radio, right? So therefore, you guys know he gave his side of the story as well. So therefore, right now, so I wonder if he's lying, which one is lying between the two. Now, here's the point that I'm concerned about. May 8th, Chief Eugene takes pre-approved medical leave. Chief Eugene mentioned on the radio, yes, he was going to medical leave. Then he mentioned on the radio, he mentioned to Assistant Chief Juriga, he will make a decision, do not make any decision regarding the investigation that's pertaining to Officer Holland. That's what he mentioned on the radio. Now, June 14th, Commander Holland, internal affair investigation completed. By the way, June 14th, Commander Holland received notice of intent to terminate employment. June 15th, Chief Eugene placed on administrative leave with pay and received separation agreement. Now, look at the space between the time. How can we understand that, as a matter of fact, Chief Eugene is still chief, right? Since he's leaving for leave of absence for whatever reason. Now, he's coming back, he said on Thursday. By the time he come back, when I was reading the paper, Assistant Chief Juriga, when I was reading the investigation paper, who signed for Officer Holland to be released was Assistant Chief Juriga. Now, here's my point. 3 investigations in process, state attorney, and one of them mentioned that Chief Gary Eugene mentioned on his tape that you guys know I play in my radio show throughout the whole week for people to understand his testimony under oath FDLE, where he mentioned there was animosity, there was some kind of fire between Assistant Chief Juriga and Officer Holland. Therefore, for him not to have some kind of cloud over the investigation, he chose to have FDLE investigate the situation because of conflict of interest. Now, once it's not here, how come the internal investigation is the one that make the decision by Assistant Juriga signing up the same man that he claimed on the tape to have a problem with Holland, and this is the same man that fired Officer Holland. How can we understand that? This is the kind of transparency that we're looking for.
So, thank you for your question. Actually, I want to let the next person get their question now. With regards to some of the facts and timing that you're speaking of, we actually have cue tape that address statements that the chief made, because the chief made several statements, and they were One said X and one said Y. So I want to let this lady get her question in, and then we can play that or provide you with that information, if that is okay.
Claudia Pasmino, 13504 Northeast 23rd Place. Basically, I got up because I agree with him. Based on what I heard in public records, Assistant Chief Rodriguez did go to you or to the chief with lies saying that Holland had lied. I don't know why he was not investigated. And so when I'm like, he was placed as assistant chief and he was the one that gave the order, I'm like, it makes sense. There's a personal vendetta, and now he did what he wanted to do in the first place, get rid of Holland, which is not correct, it's not right. I did listen to the testimonies that Chief Eugene and Holland did, unless there's different stories, but conflict of interest, I can understand getting suspended. But like somebody else stated, the officer shot, and right away he got suspended with pay. Holland, because of something that he said or didn't say, he got suspended with no pay. That to me doesn't make sense at all. And then again, in regards to the money, I'm a resident since 1998. There's several things the city needs: a new library, a better library, and we're wasting so much money on 3 officers now on paid leave, all these lawsuits, and I'm like, come on, it doesn't make sense. And honestly, the chief, I believe he's a great chief. He should not get terminated at all. And I don't know the young lady in the back, but I agree with her. I feel safe because I know the officers, but I don't trust the city no more or the police department, because it looks like the higher up, you guys are clicking and internal stuff going on, because it doesn't make sense to me. And I hope it gets straightened out and do not fire the chief or Holland, because I see no reason why.
Good evening. My name is Camille Merulus, and I am a community organizer, 13015 Northwest 7th Avenue. That's where we are located. And I'm also a radio personality at Radio Mega, Sauvager Talk Show. Sometimes I don't have time to listen to what happened during the day because I'm busy doing things in my office. But I participate, beside of my own show, at a show that takes place on Saturday night from 11 to 2 a.m. And the guys brought the matter that Chief Eugene was put on administrative leave. So, and this morning, I heard about this meeting on WIOD 610. Then I said, it's got to be very serious if it's on WIOD. So I have to make sure that I participate. So I have to congratulate Mr. Spring, because his name was named on WIOD as the one who initiated that meeting tonight. So I am here tonight to find out what's going on exactly. So when I go on my show on Monday night, I can tell the community the real side of the story. So that's the only reason I am here, and I have to congratulate the city for setting up something so unprecedented. So congratulations. Bye-bye.
Good evening. I'm with the Miami Times. My name is Janaya Adams. My question is, what is your response to reports saying that Eugene feels like that this is racially motivated, or that it is targeting him?
Eugene and Holland look like me. Juriga's supposed to protect me. He doesn't look like me. Haitian. We need representation.
I'm not going to get into the litigation matter, but I'll simply say is the following. I have known and worked with Chief Eugene for over 15 years. I'm the city manager.
Let him talk. Then y'all can talk. Let him talk. The microphone. Give y'all a chance to talk. Let him talk.
Again, I'm the city manager who appointed Chief Eugene. I worked with him. We discovered some deficiencies in his performance. We discussed them on a few occasions, and they're documented. And this is where we ended up. I'm disappointed that he's gone on TV, but I guess I understand when someone is being asked to leave, they buckle down and they start to take care of themselves. So I get it. I respect him as a person, which is what I said to him when I gave him the separation agreement. And I'm a member of this community too. One of the highest ranking African Americans who worked at the city of Miami for 9 years. So I almost take personal offense when someone says, I, as a black person in Miami, is discriminating against another black person in Miami. It's ridiculous.
Good evening. I hesitate to come up here to speak to you guys because I feel like you guys are more concerned with covering your asses than you are my safety.
Please respect.
Asses is a word. I have a degree.
Your name and address.
Your name and address.
I just said that I hesitated to come up here. All right, and I'm not interested in speaking, but Larry Spring and Larry Jariga are more concerned with covering the city than they are with the real issue, which is that you guys are putting guns in the wrong people's hands, giving badges out to the wrong people. That's the issue. Firing the commander and firing the chief is not the solution. You guys are commending these guys for making so much change, but it's fake change. They put more energy. Their concern is with saving their face, not with my safety, and I'm a resident of the city. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Juancito Frencius. I'm the former candidate for City Council in District 3. I live in North Miami for the past 10 years. And I'm surprised to see Mr. Larry today take action against Eugene. Well, I made a copy and distributed it to the dais where some elected official using the credit cards, the city credit card, for their own interests. Seriously, that's public records. And I brought to the city a lot of malversation happened in the city of North Miami. Even city manager Larry has a copy of my investigation. No action were taken. Now I feel threatened, I feel discriminated by Mr. Larry as Haitian community because whatever they brought on the table, our knowledge, our intellectual explanation cannot explain whatever we try to put up against him. What I suggest as a member in this community, we need to unify, we need to solve this matter. I suggest that we bring Eugene back and we unify the community for the better of the community. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michelle Togno, and I live at 1840 Northeast 124th Street. And actually, like some of you have been here 20 years, 21 years, I was actually born here. My hospital was Johnson in Wales. So what I would like to say is that I feel very protected with Larry and Jariga.
We don't look alike.
And I really feel sad. I really feel sad today that I live in such a wonderful, diverse neighborhood, and that we have people like you in the back that are not coming up here and saying things that are correct. We need to join together. We need to join together in a positive way. Now, Larry Spring and Chief Jariga, they have done a wonderful job. They have volunteered with the kids. We have helped. He's on the PAL board. You have no idea what you're talking about. This is not about prejudice. This is not about being Haitian. They are doing what they're supposed to do and following the laws. and I'm saying it because I know it. So I would appreciate everybody looking at this in a different way. Thank you.
Well, before you start, I just want, if anyone else comes, and I know Laura will respect the forum, just address your comments to us, please. That's why we're here. We're here to listen. That's why we're sitting here. So.
Hi, I'm Laura Hill, 13075 Griffing Boulevard. As you know, I'm very active in the community of the city of North Miami, and I just want to remind everybody that when a normal resident is interacting with any member of the North Miami Police Department, it generally doesn't have to do with these types of politics. It has to do with the everyday things that happen in our community, such as break-ins, speeding, and all of these various things. And in order for the process of community policing to work, to be effective, the partnership between the community and the police has to be solid. Otherwise, it doesn't work. The concept is to gain the trust of your community so that they trust you, the police officers, and trust in the relationship that they can approach police officers and tell them things that they've heard. The opposite happens when the trust is betrayed and everyone in the neighborhood gets insular. Nobody's seen nothing. Nobody wants to talk about anything, and then we have a hard time reducing crime and accomplishing the goals. I don't know, and I don't claim to know, what the politics of the North Miami Police Department are. I really, as a resident, it's not something that I involve myself in. But I do want this community to maintain a trust. I want to participate in that trust. But I also want to make sure that we're respecting all the lives of our people. One thing that I do feel sadness for is that Chief Eugene served for 30 years as a police officer in Miami. That means something. Just like at every one of our days that we work hard and we invest in the community, at the end of the day, 30 years of service, that does mean something. That means something to me, and I'm grateful. I'm just as grateful for Gary Eugene's service as I am for any one of you up here. Sometimes I feel like at the end of one of our scandals in North Miami, we just wash our hands of people. We just say, sorry, this is not working out anymore, you're just going to have to leave. But you have to remember that every day these people have woken up and they've contributed something, and that does matter. And I appreciate every one of your service, and I intend to maintain the partnership as a resident with the city and with the police department. But please remember that just as much as Eugene's career mattered and the health and safety of Kinsey should have been ensured, and we need to just keep that focus and that perspective that we can't just constantly be wiping our hands of somebody when they don't work out anymore or when some public thing happens. These people and all of us residents invest our time and our lives into this city. So thank you very much.
Cassandra, I wanted to address one of the items. I have two audio files that I wanted to play to address the question that you asked. So if you play the first one, they're about 2 to 3 minutes each. Yes. So to address one of the questions that was still outstanding about the two statements that the chief gave about X and Y. The first audio file you're going to hear is the chief's specific to this issue about Chief Jariga and not liking Commander Holland, is the testimony, sworn testimony he gave to the FDLE. So back in July, I believe, August of 2016.
Your initial thought was that Commander Holland may have misled you initially. Is that what your initial thought was?
My thought when I told Commander Holland, you are not on the scene, and you're a witness, and he said, no, I'm not a witness. And when later on Larry Juiga brought to my attention that they heard the transmission of the commander, and actually it's because of that, his transmission, that's why the officer opened fire. I said, how can he say to me, that could have said to me that he did witness the shooting when he basically gave the order? That's what I thought.
I see.
So that's when I went to speak to the city manager, and I did take that decision to suspend him until I saw flash. Wait a minute, they don't like each other. Let me get my first-hand information. And I came to the station, listen to the tape, I keep saying tape, to the CD myself. I said, time out. The time he said, he did say it, he's loading it. To the time of the shooting is a good 4 minutes later. And I remember it clearly stated to me that he went to get his binoculars. So I believe it does make sense that he himself said he appears to be loading a gun. A sergeant letter said it is a toy. It does make sense at that time for him to say, get my binoculars. Now I put the last pieces together. I realized I was misled, please. I'm not saying it was done intentionally, by Chief Joiga, that it was his statements that caused the guy to do the shooting. At that time, I knew he was on the scene because he was the first person to debrief me of what was going on. So nobody could tell me otherwise, because when I arrived at the city, he was the only person who talked to me. Until after I went for the briefing, I was telling you. The only things I was pissed is the fact that I thought he actually witnessed the shooting, and he told me he did not witness. That's the lie I believe he did. But after listening to the tape, I said, wait a minute, he did not lie. You understand? That's
but at that point, the city manager.
So now I'm going to play. You heard the chief say Holland did not lie. Oh, I'm sorry. So you just heard the chief say Holland did not lie.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to play the audio file of the investigation of the internal audit questioning around the same subject matter.
So questioning. So then you mean by your own investigation?
By internal affairs,
by the
sworn
city.
This is
by the
Chief's
city.
statement.
Being asked the same question, line of questioning.
So give me 1 second. Now,
Just listen. You have to listen.
Go ahead.
Personally apologize to both Larry Juiga
You apologize.
and at a lesser extent, and John Rivera, because when he says, no, chief, you claim I'm misled by your staff. I say, first of all, you are not even there, so you shouldn't. I was not talking about you. And he was basically Chief Juiga. And I did say that, Larry, maybe I used the words that I should not use, but basically, when I meant by misled, it was not something, because misleading somebody is intentional. And in my case, I don't think, or at least I have no proof it was intentional from his part. The statement he made to me. And actually, I called Chief Joiga 2 days ago when the news first hit the airwaves to say, please, I want you to remember the 2 things. The news was before I spoke to you, and give me a chance to talk to you face to face. I called him home. I mean, wherever he is right now. I didn't want him to feel like, after I told him, I used the wrong word, and the night that I spoke to Larry Juiga, I can remind you very well, that was the shooting involving Officer Laguerre, and December the 29th, I believe. He was when they almost got killed, those 2 officers almost got killed. That's what I called Larry Juiga and told him about it. I said, misled? He said, yeah, that's what you said. I said, fudge. I didn't mean by that. And so he understood it. I want you to make it for the record.
Keep going. Hold on.
Okay, Steve, so, Chief, so verify that at no point did Chief Juriga tell you that Command Holland gave the order to shoot?
No. Never, never. Neither former Major Chen. Okay.
And as a matter of fact, during the beginning of this statement here today, when you said that you went to the city manager with this, you said, and I wrote it down, you said that you probably moved to the right with your comment on this. So, fair to say, it was your interpretation.
That he lied to me. The commander completely lied to me. And
So, those are the two conflicting statements.
Let's try to understand.
Don't forget, those can be edited now. Those words can be edited.
Sir, stop. Okay, you just heard the vid. You heard it. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, I heard it. Listen. As I said earlier, that tape, all of the tapes, they're on the city's website. If you feel like it, you can go listen to the entire thing. We're not hiding anything. It's not been edited. It's on the city's website. It's there for you to listen to. So for you to sit here now and say to edit, we can do this all night long. We can present evidence to you. You can change it. We provided you the tape. Don't believe us. Go listen to the tape yourself. And then ask yourselves the same questions. But we're not going to go back and forth tonight on this. All right? So you asked the question. We just answered the question. You can go back and listen to the entire tape. To the best of my ability, what?
You got in that tape because
I don't even understand what was going on.
what I was about
Well,
to
Rochelle, in order for us not to go back and forth, because it is a forum, you asked a question about something, I played you 2 pieces to demonstrate what I was referring to. Beyond this, maybe either a little bit tonight and later on I will make myself available for questions, if that's okay.
And to the point that I think someone just said they couldn't understand the tape, that's fine. The transcripts are also on the city's website. So if you can't hear it and understand it, you can read it. But I urge everyone to read it, listen to it. This isn't the last of these community forums. You can come back and ask the questions. You can call your elected officials, you can call Larry. You can ask your questions, you can send your emails in, but I urge you to listen to the tapes. We've made everything available for this purpose. The problem we're having here is no one's listening to the tapes. No one's listening to the tapes, no one's reading what's on the website. It's all on the website. It's all on the website.
How come you guys haven't shared Assistant Chief Neil Cuevas' memorandum?
Let me respond to that.
That's not like public, it hasn't made public.
Okay. The reason that memo hasn't been put is because it's not officially part of our, it's not part of any of this process. Can I, ma'am, please, okay? There is a process to all of this, and we've been following the process to all of this. The way this process works is, once the internal affairs investigation is over, the internal affairs package goes to 3 officers who review it. Once those 3 officers make their determination, that package then goes to the person's supervisor. In this case, it would be Major Belcher. It would go to Major Belcher. It goes through the person's chain of command. In other words, whoever the highest person is in the chain of command, they get the package and it goes down to the person to make their recommendation. That's the way it's supposed to work. The only person who's supposed to make a recommendation on that IA investigation is the direct supervisor. That memo that you're talking about is outside of the standard operating procedures. It's outside the standing operating procedures. It's not called for in any of the city's processes. So you can't on one side say, make this a process and follow the process, and on the other side, someone just comes out and writes in whatever they want to write. Now here's the thing. Whether he has the right or not to do it, I'm not saying he doesn't have the right to make up whatever he wants to say. I mean, the man's been in the force for a long time. He has his opinion. But at the same time, that does not go in our procedure. So that was not the form for it.
Witness?
No, he wasn't, ma'am. Did you read anything?
So, with that,
Sorry, I gotta apologize. I'm gonna apologize because it's an outburst. I'm sorry about the outburst. I'm gonna apologize. I'm gonna apologize. May I apologize? I'm gonna apologize for the outburst. But ma'am, I'm apologizing for the outburst. I'm apologizing. I'm apologizing for the outburst, but ma'am, we've been standing here all night talking, and all night you've just been interrupting, and there's a bunch of people here who haven't had the opportunity to speak. We've given you the opportunity to speak. You've already spoken, but you're just yelling. You're yelling things all night that have not been true. That's what you've been doing all night.
That's not true. You are bossing everybody.
Oh, here's another.
okay. Well, with that, I'm going to thank everybody for coming. Again, thank the council participants. As we've said at all of these, we're going to continue to be transparent, so we will have follow-up meetings as we go through the remainder of the process. With that, I'll say good night.
Thank you so much.
Your letter's coming to you.
These guys have to have an opportunity to do their job. Everybody just hasn't concluded yet. They're throwing darts and laurels at the guys. I listened to the audio, everything on it. I did that several weeks ago before I could